Jia walked through the shiny halls of New Seoul Academy with her eyes down. The other students moved away from her as if she had a disease. She was used to this. Being a plain human at a school full of enhanced students made her different, and different was bad. "Look, it's the basic," whispered a girl with glowing blue lines under her skin. Jia kept walking. The word basic hurt, but she pretended not to hear. It meant someone without improvements. No brain chips, no added strength, no special eyes that could see in the dark. Just human, like people were hundreds of years ago. She reached her locker and quickly put in the code. The door stuck, as always. The school gave the worst lockers to students like her. "Need help with that, basic?" Han stood behind her, tall and perfect with his enhanced muscles. "Oh wait, you want to do things the old way, right? How quaint." His friends laughed. Han was the richest boy in school. His parents had given him the best upgrades money could buy. He was stronger, faster, and smarter than normal humans, and he never let anyone forget it. Jia turned away. "I'm fine, thank you." "So polite," Han mocked. "Is that what they teach you in basic school before you come here? How to be a good little servant?" More laughter. Jia finally got her locker open and grabbed her history book. She had class in 3 minutes. If she hurried, she could get there before the teacher and avoid more attention. "Hey," a friendly voice called from down the hall. Day jogged toward her, his plain human face smiling. "Wait up." Day was the only other unenhanced student in their year. His family had money but chose not to change their son. "It's unnatural," his mother had said at parent night. The enhanced parents had been shocked. "Morning, Jia," Day said, ignoring Han and his group. "Ready for the history test?" "I studied all night," Jia said, walking beside him. Han called after them. "Look at the matching set. 2 basics in love." Day rolled his eyes. "Ignore him. He's jealous because you got a higher score on the space navigation exam, even with his expensive brain chip." Jia smiled a little. It was true. Something about space made sense to her in a way it didn't for others. She saw patterns in star maps that even the teachers missed sometimes. It was the one class where being basic didn't matter. They reached the history classroom and took seats in the back. Their teacher, Mr. Park, began talking about the Great War from 300 years ago. Jia tried to focus, but her eyes felt heavy. She hadn't slept well. The dreams had come again. Dreams of stars exploding, of ships bigger than cities moving through space, of her own voice giving commands that saved millions of lives. "Jia, Jia." She jumped. Mr. Park was looking at her. "Since you find my lesson boring enough to sleep through, perhaps you can tell us who led the final battle against the Void Dominion." The class turned to look at her. Han smirked, waiting for her to fail. But the answer came to Jia's lips without thinking. Admiral Ji-hyun led the United Earth Fleet at the Battle of Broken Moons. She used the asteroid field to trap the Dominion's left flank while her smaller ships attacked from below the orbital plane. The room went silent. Mr. Park stared at her. "That's extremely detailed, Jia. More than is in our textbook." He looked confused. "Where did you learn that?" Jia blinked. Where had that come from? I read it somewhere." After class, the principal announced news that made the school buzz with excitement. 5 students will be selected for an exchange with the Galactic Consortium next month. This is a great honor. Applications open today. No point in basics applying, Han said loudly as they filed out. The aliens don't want to meet museum exhibits. Day nudged Jia. "You should apply. You know more about space than anyone." Jia thought about it. She'd never been off-planet, never seen the stars up close, and something inside her longed to go, as if the stars were calling her home. That night, the dreams came again. But this time, she wasn't just watching ships in battle. She was commanding them, and everyone called her Admiral. The day of the consortium selection arrived faster than Jia expected. Despite Han's mockery, She had applied for the exchange program. Now she stood with 50 other hopeful students in the school's main hall waiting. Principal Sook walked to the front of the room. Her steps were too perfect to be natural. Another enhanced human. She held a small silver tablet. "The consortium has chosen 5 students," she said. "These lucky few will spend 2 weeks on their diplomatic vessel." Jia held her breath. Next to her, Dai squeezed her hand. "Han." The enhanced boy smiled and stepped forward, not surprised at all. Mina, a girl with data ports visible on her wrists, nodded. Q, a tall boy who rarely spoke, moved to join the others. Eun, a girl who could solve math problems faster than any computer, walked forward. Principal Sook paused before reading the last name. She looked confused for a moment. "And Jia." The room went silent. Han's smile dropped. Jia couldn't move until Dai pushed her gently forward. "There must be a mistake," Han said. "She's basic." Principal Sook checked her tablet again. "No mistake. These are the names the consortium requested." Jia joined the other 4 students at the front. They all looked at her with the same question. Why her? 1 week later, Jia stood in a white room inside the consortium ship. The vessel hung above Earth colony Hana like a small moon. Through the window, she could see the curve of the planet below. "This way, humans." A tall being with 6 arms guided them down a hallway. The alien had blue skin and no hair. "The representatives wish to greet you." The ship was amazing. Walls changed color as they walked past. Doors opened without being touched. Jia should have been excited like the others, but something felt wrong. She had been here before. She knew what was around each corner before they turned it. They entered a large round room with a table in the middle. 5 aliens sat waiting. Each looked different from the others. One had scales. One looked like fog in the shape of a person. One had 4 eyes. But it was the oldest one that made Jia stop walking. He looked almost human except for his golden eyes and the patterns on his skin. He was staring right at her. "Welcome, students of Earth Colony Hana," said the scale alien. "I am Speaker Vel. We are honored by your visit." The older alien kept watching Jia. She tried to look away. "This is a historic meeting," Speaker Vel continued. "The first student exchange with your colony. We have much to share with you." The table lit up, showing star maps all around them. The room became space itself, with stars and planets floating everywhere. "This is our home system," said Speaker Vel, pointing to a group of stars. "And here," the map changed to show a different area. "This is where we first met humans, 300 years ago." Han raised his hand. "During the Void War?" "Yes," said Speaker Vel. "A terrible time." Jia stared at the map. Something was wrong with it. The stars weren't in the right places. Before she could stop herself, she spoke. "That's not correct," she said, pointing to a cluster of stars. "Vega's position is wrong. It should be here, with these 3 smaller stars around it." And this whole section moved after the Battle of Broken Moons. The explosion changed their paths. Everyone turned to look at her. The older alien with golden eyes stood up. "How do you know this, young human?" he asked. His voice was deep and quiet. Jia blinked. How did she know? I must have read it somewhere. The golden-eyed alien walked toward her. "My name is Quan. I am very old, even for my kind. I was there during the Battle of Broken Moons." He stopped in front of Jia. "But you could not have read what you just said. That information is not in any human book." The star movements after the battle were classified. The other students moved away from Jia. Even Han looked worried now. "I don't understand," Jia said. But deep inside, part of her did understand. It was the same part that dreamed of ships and stars and battles. "Perhaps we should speak alone," said Quan. He looked at the other aliens. Some kind of message passed between them. "There is much to discuss." That night in her room on the ship, Jia dreamed more clearly than ever before. She wasn't just watching a battle. She was in it. She was giving orders. and when she looked down at her hands, they were older, scared. On her uniform was a name tag, Admiral Ji-hyun. She woke up with a scream trapped in her throat. The name echoed in her mind. Ji-hyun. Ja. The names were too similar to be chance. Morning came too quickly. Ja sat in a small room with Kwon, away from the other students. The golden-eyed alien watched her carefully. "Do you know who you are?" he asked. Jia frowned. "I'm Ja. I'm 17. I'm from Earth Colony Hana." Kwon shook his head. "That is only part of who you are. The newest part." He touched a panel on the wall. The room darkened, and a face appeared in the air between them. It was a woman in her 40s with short gray hair and serious eyes. She wore a blue uniform with many medals. Her face looked like an older version of Ja's. "This is Admiral Ji-hyun," said Kwon, "the greatest military leader humans ever had. She saved not just Earth but many worlds during the Void War." Jia stared at the face. It felt like looking in a mirror that showed the future. 300 years ago, Kwon continued, Admiral Ji-hyun led the final battle against the Void Dominion. They were evil beings who ate stars and killed whole planets. She beat them when no one else could. "What does this have to do with me?" Jia asked, but she already knew the answer. "You are her," said Kwon simply. "Her mind, her soul, born again." Jia shook her head. "That's impossible. My people live for thousands of years," Kwon said. "I was there. I was her advisor, her friend. I would know her anywhere, even in a new body. But I don't remember being her." "You were not supposed to," Kwon said. After the war, Ji-hyun had many enemies. People who wanted revenge. We put her memories to sleep and hid her soul. Later you were born, and we made sure you had a normal life." Jia thought about her dreams, the star maps, the way she felt on the ship. "The blocks are breaking, aren't they? That's why I'm remembering things." Kwon nodded. "Faster than we expected. We must." A loud alarm cut him off. Red lights flashed in the room. "They found us," Kwon said. He looked afraid. "Sooner than I feared." "Who found us?" Jia asked. "The Void Dominion." Kwon grabbed her arm. "They were not all destroyed. Some hid, waiting, hunting for you." The ship shook. Something had hit it. "We must go," said Kwon. He pulled Jia toward the door. "You are not ready, but we have no choice." They ran into the hallway. Other aliens rushed past them, heading for safety. In the distance, Jia heard screams. "The other students," she said. "We can't leave them." Kwon looked torn. "We must protect you. You are too important." But Jia was already running toward the sounds. She turned a corner and found Han, Mina, and the others trapped by falling debris. Without thinking, she jumped forward and began moving the heavy pieces. "Help me," she called to Kwon. Together, they cleared a path. The students crawled through. "What's happening?" asked Han. For once, he wasn't acting superior. "We're under attack," said Jia. "We need to get to the escape pods." "How do you know where they are?" Mina asked. Jia paused. How did she know? But the ship layout was clear in her mind, as if she had studied it long ago. "Just follow me," she said. They ran through the ship. Twice they had to hide from strange dark figures with glowing eyes. The Void Soldiers. Each time, Jia knew exactly when to move and when to hide. They reached a row of small ships. "Get in," Jia ordered. The students obeyed without question. Day appeared, running down the hall. "Jia." She stared at him in shock. "Die. How are you here?" "No time," he said. He looked at Kwon. They'd breached the main deck. "We need to go now." Kwon nodded as if he wasn't surprised to see Da. "Take her to the outpost. I will find you there." "Wait," said Jia. "What outpost?" "Da. What's going on?" Day took her hand. "I'll explain everything. But right now, We need to leave. As they entered the escape pod, a memory flashed in Joe's mind. She was standing on a burning bridge, giving orders as her ship fell apart around her. She had done this before. She had escaped death before. I'm starting to remember, she whispered as the pod launched away from the dying ship. I was her. I am her. Admiral Ji-hyun. Day nodded. And now the war begins again. Because they will never stop hunting you. They reached the main office without meeting more soldiers. Ja closed the door behind them and went straight to the principal's desk. What are you doing? Han asked. We need to hide, not play with the principal's things. Jia ignored him. She pressed her hand against the desk in a certain way. A hidden panel slid open. How did you know that was there? Minna asked, eyes wide. Because I put it there, Jia said. She typed a code into the panel. 300 years ago. The students looked at each other. They thought she was crazy. Is she okay? One whispered to Da. She's better than okay, Da answered. She's remembering who she really is. The floor began to shake. A section of the wall moved, revealing a hidden room filled with weapons and screens. Everyone inside, Jia ordered. They obeyed without question now. Once they were all in the secret room, the wall closed again, hiding them. Screens showed different parts of the school. They could see void soldiers searching classrooms. What is this place? Han asked, touching one of the strange guns on the wall. A command center, Jia said. I built several around the colony long ago. This one controls the school's defense systems. But the school doesn't have defense systems, said Mina. Jia smiled. It does now. She pressed buttons on a large panel. Outside, metal shutters closed over all the school windows. Turrets rose from hidden spots on the roof. I need to get all the students to safety, Jia said. She turned to Mina. You're good with communication systems, right? Mina looked surprised that Jia knew this. Yes. I'm enhanced for it. I need you to send a message to everyone in the school. Tell them to come to the gym. We'll protect them there. Mina nodded and went to work on one of the screens. Jia turned to Han. You're strong. I need you to help move people once they arrive. For once, Han didn't argue. What will you do? I'm going to wake up the rest of the defenses, Jia said. And then I'm going to talk to the Void Dominion. Talk to them. Han looked shocked. They're trying to kill us. No, Jia said. They're trying to kill me. The rest of you are just in the way. She touched another panel. A screen showed a man in black armor. He looked human but had purple lines under his skin like the soldiers. His eyes were completely black. Commander Tae, Jia said. She knew his name without being told. It's been a long time. The man on the screen looked shocked. Admiral Ji-hyun. So it is true. You live again. I do, Jia said. And I'm giving you one chance to leave this colony in peace. Commander Ta laughed. You're in no position to make demands. You're a child now, not the great admiral. We will take you, and we will make you watch as we destroy everything you protected. I may look young, Jia said, but I remember enough to know your weakness. She pressed a button. Outside, the turrets on the roof began firing at a specific spot on the void ships, a small area near their engines that glowed brighter than the rest. Commander Tae's smile disappeared. How do you know about that? Those ships were built after your death. I know because I'm smarter than you, Jia said. I always was. She turned off the screen and faced the students. They were staring at her with a mix of fear and respect. Who are you really? Han asked quietly. My name is Admiral Ji-hyun, she said. I fought the Void Dominion 300 years ago and defeated them. When I died, my consciousness was preserved and later reborn as Jia. She looked at each of them. I know you all thought I was nothing because I wasn't enhanced. But being human isn't a weakness. It's what saved us before, and it will save us again. A loud explosion shook the building. On the screens, they could see the turrets had hit one of the void ships. It was falling from the sky. I need your help, Gia told the students. All of you. Each of your enhancements can be useful. You want us to fight? A student asked, scared. I want you to survive, Gia said, and sometimes surviving means fighting. Another explosion. Another ship damage. The turrets won't last much longer, Dai warned. The void will adapt. Gia nodded. Then we need to move faster. Mina, have you contacted everyone? Yes. Students are heading to the gym now. Good. Han, take 2 others and go help them. Dae, you and I will get more weapons from the storage room below. As they moved to follow her orders, Gia felt something strange. For the first time in her life, this life, people were listening to her, respecting her. The same students who had called her basic now looked to her for leadership. And deep inside, the memories of Admiral Ji-hyun told her this was exactly where she belonged. In command, ready to fight, ready to win. The school gym was full of scared students. Jia stood on a small stage, looking at them all. Just weeks ago, she had been one of them, afraid, unsure, trying to fit in. Now she was their leader. The defenses will hold for now, she told them. But we need more help. As if hearing her words, a screen on the wall lit up. Kwan's face appeared. Admiral, he said, I've reached the Consortium Council. They're in emergency session now. Gia nodded. Put them through. The screen changed to show 12 alien faces. Some Gia recognized from her memories. Others were new. Honorable Council, she said, standing straighter. I am Admiral Ji-hyun, reborn as the human girl you see before you. I request your help against the Void Dominion forces attacking Earth Colony Hana. There was silence. Then one alien, with blue skin, spoke. Why should we help? The last time humans had power, they used it to take more than their share of space and resources. Another alien nodded. Admiral Ji-hyun's tactics won the war, yes, but they also gave humans too much influence afterward. Gia felt anger rising in her chest. More memories came to her, of fighting not just the Void Dominion, but also politics after the war. I saved your worlds, she said firmly. All of them. The Nox system would be dust if not for my fleet. The Zentari homeworld would be empty. And now I ask for your help in return. An older alien with long tentacles for arms leaned forward. Admiral, many of us remember your bravery. But that was long ago. Times have changed. Have they? Jia asked. The Void Dominion has returned. They will not stop with Earth. They will consume every star, every planet, every life form, just as they tried to do before. She looked at each council member in turn. You owe me a debt. All of you. I call in that debt now. The blue alien laughed. The debt was to Admiral Ji-hyun, a great leader, not to a human child playing dress-up. Without thinking, Jia spoke in the alien's own language, a series of clicks and whistles that her human mouth shouldn't have been able to make. When your world was burning, first speaker Vex, I saved your family personally. I carried your youngest child through fire to safety. You promised me then that you would never forget. Have you forgotten so soon? The blue alien, Vex, looked shocked. How do you know this? Those details were never recorded. Because I was there, Jia said simply. I am Ji-hyun, no matter what body I wear now. The council members whispered among themselves. Finally, the tentacled alien spoke again. What do you need, Admiral? Ships, Jia said. The Void Fleet is larger than what's attacking the school. They're holding back, waiting. We need to strike first. We cannot send a full fleet, the tentacled alien said. But some of us will send what we can spare, for old time's sake. Vex still looked unhappy but nodded. The Nox will send 3 ships, but no more. One by one, the council members made small promises, not enough for a real war, but enough to hold back the immediate threat. Thank you, Jia said. I won't forget this. After the screen went dark, Dai approached her. That was amazing. You spoke languages you couldn't possibly know. I know them, Jia said. She knows them. She touched her head. It's getting harder to tell where Jia ends and Ji-hyun begins. Han had been watching nearby. So you really are her? The famous admiral. I am, Jia said, but I'm still learning how to be her again. A loud boom shook the building. On the screens, they could see the Void soldiers breaking through one of the school's outer walls. Help is coming, Jia told the frightened students. But not soon enough. We need to hold this position ourselves. She looked at the enhanced students around her. Each of you has gifts. Uses them now. Mina, keep communications open. Han, organize defense teams based on abilities. To her surprise, they all listened. Students with strength enhancements moved furniture to block doors. Those with technical skills worked on screens and systems. Those who could run fast became messengers between groups. They respect you now, Daz said quietly. The same people who called you basic. They shouldn't have needed to see me command a defense to respect me, Jia said. But at least they're helping now. Another explosion rocked the building. Closer this time. They're coming for me, Jia said. They won't stop until they have me. Then we won't let them take you, said a voice behind her. It was Han. Whatever you were before, whatever you are now, you're one of us. And we protect our own. Jia looked at him in surprise. Even though I'm basic. Han shook his head. You're the least basic person I've ever met, Admiral. For the first time in days, Jia smiled. Maybe there was hope after all. The Void soldiers were inside the school now. Jia could hear them moving through the halls, getting closer to the gym. The help from the consortium would take hours to arrive. They needed a new plan. We can't just sit here and wait, Jia said to her small team of leaders. Da, Han, and Mina. We need to strike first. Strike how? Han asked. There are hundreds of them, and only a few dozen of us. Most students don't even know how to fight. Jia closed her eyes. More memories came to her. Battle plans, secret missions, impossible victories. We don't need to defeat them all, she said. Just their leader. Cut off the head, and the body falls. Commander Tay, Daz said. But he'll be on their main ship, not here in the school. Han laughed. Sure, let's just walk up and knock on their door. But Jia was serious. I helped to design the stealth technology they're using. I can see patterns in it that others can't. There's a weak spot in their shielding. She drew a quick map on a piece of paper. Their main ship will be here, above the city center. It's cloaked, but I can find it. With a small team, we can slip aboard using the same technology that's in this room. That's crazy, Han said, but he sounded impressed. They made their plan. Jia would lead a small team. Da, Han, Mina, and 2 other students with useful enhancements. They would use a small ship from the school's hidden hangar while the rest of the students held the gym. Be careful, said a younger student as they prepared to leave. We need you to come back. Jia smiled at him. I plan to. Their ship was small and old, but it flew well. Jia sat in the pilot's seat, her hands moving over the controls as if she had flown this ship 1,000 times before. How do you know how to fly this? Mina asked. I built it, Jia said. A long time ago. They flew over the city toward where Jia sensed the hidden Void flagship would be. Normal eyes couldn't see it, but Jia could feel its presence. There, she said, pointing at empty sky. Their cloaking technology bends light around the ship, but it creates a small distortion. Look at the stars behind it. The others squinted. Slowly, they could see it too. Stars that didn't move quite right, a shape that didn't belong. How do we get in? Han asked. We don't, Jia said. They take us in. She fired the ship's small weapons at the spot where she knew the Void ship's sensors would be. A direct hit. Now they know we're here, she said. And they'll want to capture us, not destroy us. They want me alive. Sure enough, A small opening appeared in the invisible ship. A tractor beam pulled their vessel inside. Once we're in, we have to move fast, Gia told her team. Minna, you'll hack their systems. Han, you and the others protect her. Dad, you're with me. We're going to find Ta. How will you know where he is? Han asked. I know how these ships are laid out, Gia said. And I know Ta. He'll be on the bridge. The tractor beam pulled them into a large hangar. Void soldiers surrounded their ship immediately. Ready? Gia asked her team. They nodded, looking scared but determined. They burst out of their ship, using the weapons Gia had given them. These weren't normal guns. They fired energy that disrupted the Void soldiers' nervous systems, making them fall without killing them. This way, Gia called, running down a corridor. The others followed. They fought their way through the ship, using Gia's knowledge to avoid most guards. Finally, they reached the bridge doors. Minna, now, Gia said. Minna connected her enhanced brain to the ship's computer system. Their security is strange, she said, but I think I can. Got it. The doors slid open. Inside stood Commander Tai and his officers. They looked surprised to see the small team of humans. Admiral, Ta said, looking at Gia, you're even more reckless in this life than your last. Not reckless, Gia said. Confident. Ta smiled coldly. Confidence won't save you this time. Do you know what we've been doing for 300 years while you slept? He gestured to his officers. Look at them carefully. Gia looked. She hadn't noticed before, but now she saw it. Each officer had familiar enhancements, neural ports, strength modifications, technical upgrades. You've been influencing human technology, she said, understanding suddenly. The enhancements are based on void technology, Tai finished. We've been preparing your people for centuries. Each improvement contains a small piece of our control system. With one signal, we can take over every enhanced human in the galaxy. Han looked horrified. That's why you attacked the school. A test run. Very good, Ta said. The perfect revenge on Ji-hyun, to turn her precious humans into our puppets. He looked at Gia. But you're immune. No enhancements, basic, as they call you. How ironic that your weakness became your strength. Always, Dae promised. The machine hummed. Gia closed her eyes. 3 months later, a girl walked through the halls of New Seoul Academy. Students moved aside respectfully as she passed. Some nodded to her. Some even smiled. Good morning, Gia, a teacher said. Morning, she replied, confused by the special treatment. She didn't remember doing anything to earn it. Near her locker, she saw a boy waiting for her. Da, her friend, though she couldn't remember exactly when they had become friends. Ready for space navigation class? He asked. Always, Gia said. I don't know why, but I love the stars. As they walked to class, she noticed a new sign on the wall. Admiral Ji-hyun Defense Program. New training today. Who's Admiral Ji-hyun? She asked Da. He smiled. A great hero. I'll tell you about her sometime. Gia nodded and continued walking, unaware of the commander she had been, the empire she had saved, and the legacy she had left behind. But sometimes, when she looked at the stars, something deep inside her remembered, and smiled. The escape pod shot through space, away from the burning consortium ship. Inside, Gia sat next to Da, trying to understand everything. You're not really a student, are you? She asked him. Dae shook his head. I was sent to watch over you, to keep you safe until the time was right. So our friendship was a lie. Gia felt hurt. No, Dad said quickly. My job was to protect you, but becoming your friend was my choice. He looked down. My best choice. The pod's computer beeped. They were approaching Earth Colony Hana. We can't go back to the school, Dad said. It's not safe. The Void Dominion will look for you there first. My parents are not your real parents, Dae said gently. They agreed to raise you, but they don't know who you really are. Jia felt like her whole life was breaking apart. Where will we go? The outpost Quan mentioned. It's hidden beneath the colony's surface, built long ago by Admiral Ji Hyun, by you, as a safe place if the war ever started again. The pod landed in a forest far from the city. As they stepped out, Jia heard a noise and turned fast. Without thinking, her body moved into a fighting stance. 3 dark figures emerged from the trees. They looked almost human, but their skin glowed with strange purple lines. Their eyes had no white parts, just black. "Void soldiers," Dai whispered. "They followed us." "The girl comes with us," said the tallest soldier. "The Dominion wants her alive." Jia felt afraid, but something else grew stronger inside her. Anger. These were the monsters from her dreams. They had killed millions. "Run," Dad told her. He pulled out a small weapon from his boot. But Jia didn't run. Instead, she stepped forward. Her body seemed to know what to do even if her mind didn't. The first soldier rushed at her. Jia ducked under his arm and struck his knee hard. The soldier fell. The second came at her from the side. She spun and kicked, faster than she knew she could move. "How is this possible?" she gasped as her body fought on its own. "Muscle memory," Dai said, fighting the third soldier. "Your new body remembers what your old one knew." They fought well, but the soldiers were too strong. Soon Jia and Dai were backed against the pod. The Void soldiers raised their weapons. A bright light suddenly cut through the air. The soldiers scattered as a small ship landed beside them. The door opened, and Quan stood there with some kind of gun. "Get in," he shouted. They jumped into the ship, which took off immediately. The Void soldiers fired at them, but it was too late. "How did you find us?" Dai asked. "I put a tracker on Jia," Quan said. "I knew this might happen." Jia looked out the window as they flew over the colony. Everything looked different now. This wasn't really her home. She wasn't really Jia, the normal girl who just wanted to fit in at school. The ship headed toward the mountains north of the city. It slowed near a cliff face that looked solid, but as they approached, part of the rock slid open, revealing a hidden entrance. "Welcome to Outpost 7, said Quan as they flew inside. "One of many bases you created, Admiral." The outpost was huge. Inside the mountain was a base with old but advanced technology. Screens showed views of space and the colony. Weapons lined the walls. "This is where we'll restore more of your memories," Quan explained, "and prepare for what's coming." "Which is what?" Jia asked. "War," said Da. "The Void Dominion ships are gathering. They've been hiding for centuries, waiting for a chance to return." Quan nodded. "They want revenge on you, Admiral, and they want to finish what they started, consuming all life in this part of the galaxy." "Stop calling me Admiral," Jia said. "I'm just a high school student. I can't fight a war." "You already did, once," Quan said. "And won." He touched a panel on the wall. The door slid open, revealing a room with a strange chair in the center. Wires and lights surrounded it. "This will help you remember more," he said. "But it's your choice. You can walk away. Live what's left of Jia's life until they find you." "Or?" Jia asked. "Or you can become who you truly are again," said Quan. "The only person who ever defeated them. The Admiral who saved worlds." Jia stared at the chair. Part of her wanted to run away, but another part, a growing part, knew what she had to do. "How long will it take?" she asked. "To remember everything." "Days, maybe weeks," said Quan. "But we don't have that much time. The Void Dominion is already attacking outer colonies. Soon they'll come here." Jia took a deep breath and sat in the chair. "Then we better get started." Pain shot through Jia's head as the memory chair did its work. Images flashed in her mind. Battles in deep space, meetings with alien leaders, ships burning against the darkness. With each memory, she felt less like Jia, the student, and more like Ji-hyun, the Admiral. 3 days passed this way. When she wasn't in the chair, Dai helped her train her body. Though she was only 17, her muscles remembered movements from her past life. "Your fighting is getting better," Dai said as they practiced. "Soon you'll be as good as you were before." Jia wiped sweat from her face. "But I'm still in a teenage body. Not exactly scary to look at." "It's not about looking scary," Quan said, watching from the side. "It's about being smart. And you were the smartest commander ever." A loud alarm rang through the base. Quan rushed to a screen. His face turned grim. "What is it?" Jia asked. "The Void Dominion. They've attacked New Soul Academy." Jia felt her heart drop. Why would they attack the school? "For the same reason hunters use bait," Dai said. "They want to draw you out." Jia watched the screen. Void soldiers moved through the school halls where she had walked just weeks ago. Students ran in fear. She saw Han trying to fight back with his enhanced strength, but the soldiers were stronger. "I have to help them," Jia said. "That's exactly what they want," Quan warned. "You don't have all your memories yet. You're not ready." Jia stood straighter. When she spoke, her voice sounded different, older, more confident. "Those students may not like me, but they're innocent. I won't let them die because of me." For the first time, Quan looked at her with real respect. "Now you sound like the admiral I knew." They made a quick plan. The outpost had old weapons and a small ship. Dad would fly them to the school while Quan contacted his allies in the consortium for help. As they prepared to leave, Quan brought Jia a small metal box. "This was yours," he said. "You left it here long ago, in case you ever needed to remember quickly." Inside was a simple silver pin in the shape of a star. As Jia touched it, a flood of memories hit her at once. Battle plans, secret codes, hidden weapon caches around the colony, information she had left for herself. "There's a defense system under the school," she said, the knowledge suddenly clear in her mind. "I put it there centuries ago. If I can reach the main office, I can activate it." Day looked surprised. "You hid weapons under a school." "I hid weapons everywhere," Jia said. "I knew they might come back someday." Their ship approached New Soul Academy. Smoke rose from several buildings. Void ships hovered overhead. "Land behind the east building," Jia ordered. The admiral in her was taking control. "There's a secret entrance there." Day followed her instructions. As they landed, Jia checked the small gun Quan had given her. It felt familiar in her hand. "Stay close to me," she told Da. "And remember, we're here to save the students first. Fighting the Void soldiers comes second." They slipped into the school through a hidden door that only Jia knew about. Inside, they found chaos. Broken glass covered the floors. Alarms blared. They could hear the heavy steps of Void soldiers searching the building. They turned a corner and found a group of students hiding in a classroom. Han, Mina, and several others looked up in shock as Jia entered. "Basic," Han whispered. "What are you doing here?" "Saving you," Jia said simply. "Now follow me if you want to live." Han looked ready to argue but then nodded. The students formed a line behind Jia and Da. "The main office is 3 halls away," Jia told them. "Stay quiet. If we see soldiers, let me handle them." "Let you handle them?" Han asked. "No offense, but you're not enhanced. I have better." Jia turned and gave him such a commanding look that he stopped talking. "There are things about me you don't know," she said. "Things I didn't know until recently. But right now, I'm the only chance any of us have of getting out alive." As they moved through the halls, 2 Void soldiers appeared ahead. Before anyone could react, Jia fired her gun twice. Both soldiers fell. The students stared at her in shock. "Who are you?" Mina whispered. Jia didn't answer. The truth was too complicated, and there wasn't time. They had to reach the office before more soldiers found them. "The person who's going to save your lives," she said. "Now move." Commander Ta walked slowly around Jia, studying her. So much power in such a small body. The great admiral reduced to a schoolgirl. Size doesn't matter, Jia said. Brains do. That's why I beat you before. Ta laughed. But this time, I have an advantage. He pressed a button on his wrist. Watch. On a nearby screen, Jia could see the gym back at the school. The enhanced students suddenly stood up straight, their eyes blank. They began to move like robots. No, Jia cried. Han fell to his knees beside her, his body shaking. The lines under his skin glowed purple now instead of blue. Fight it, Han, Jia urged. It's your mind, your body. I can't. Han gasped. His eyes were starting to change color. Mina was next, her hands moving to her head in pain. Only Da remained normal beside Jia. You see, Ta said. Every enhancement contains a piece of void technology. We can control them all. Jia looked at her team, her friends, as they struggled. Then she looked at Da, still standing strong. You knew, she said to him. That's why you never got enhanced, even though your family had money. Da nodded. My job was to protect you. I couldn't risk being controlled. Jia turned back to Ta. You've waited 300 years for this moment, but there's something you forgot. What's that? Ta asked, amused. I'm a fast learner, Jia said. And then she moved. Her body was young and small, but the memories of Admiral Ji Hyun guided every movement. She knocked Ta back into his control panel. Hard. Mina. Jia shouted. The signal. Can you block it? Mina was still fighting for control of her mind. Maybe, if I can, reach the main system. Jia and Dai fought Tai and his officers, buying time. But they were outnumbered. Soon, they were backed against the wall. It's over, Admiral, Ta said. You can't save them all. Jia looked at Han, at Mina, at all the people being controlled. Then she looked at Ta. I don't need to save them all, she said. Just enough of them. She closed her eyes. In her mind, she found the place where Jia ended and Ji Hyun began. The wall between her two selves. What are you doing? Tai asked, suddenly worried. Something dangerous, Jia said. Something only I can do. She broke the wall in her mind. All at once, every memory of Admiral Ji Hyun flooded into her. 300 years of life. Every battle plan. Every secret code. Every hidden weapon. The rush of memories was too much for her young brain. Pain shot through her head. But she had what she needed now. Command override Starburst 7, she called out. Her voice sounded different, older, stronger. The ship's computer beeped. Override accepted. Welcome, Admiral Ji Hyun. What? Ta looked shocked. How do you have access to our systems? Jia smiled through her pain. Because I designed a base code that all ships use, even yours. I left myself a back door. Just in case. Impossible, Ta whispered. Shut down all control signals. Jia ordered the computer. Initiate self-destruct sequence. Delay 5 minutes. Alarms blared. The control signal to the enhanced humans cut off. Han gasped as his mind became his own again. We need to go, Daz said, helping Mina to her feet. Now. Tai tried to stop them, but Han, free of control, knocked him aside with his enhanced strength. They ran for their ship. Behind them, the flagship began to fall apart. They barely made it to the hangar and escaped before the massive ship exploded. As they flew back to the school, Jia felt strange. The memories were too much. Her vision blurred. Jia? Da looked worried. What's wrong? Too many memories, she whispered. My brain can't hold them all. Ji Hyun is too much for Jia. Kwan's voice came over their radio. Admiral, the consortium ships have arrived. The Void Fleet is retreating. Good, Jia said. Her voice was fading. But I need your help, old friend. Back at the outpost, Jia lay in the memory chair again. But this time, it was removing memories, not adding them. Are you sure? Quan asked. You'll forget everything. Being Ji-hyun. The battles. All of it. Jia nodded weakly. I have to. This brain can't hold 2 lives. But before you do it, she handed Quan a small data chip. Save these parts, battle plans, defense codes, things humanity will need. They'll need you, Quan said sadly. They'll have me, Jia said. Just not all of me. She looked at her friends, Dai, Han, Mana, people who had gone from enemies to allies. Keep an eye on me, will you?